General Romulo was a moving force behind the shaping of the charter creating the United Nations in 1945. He served as the president of the fourth session of United Nations General Assembly from 1949 to 1950, the first Asian to hold the position, and served as president of the United Nations Security Council 4 times, twice in 1957, 1980, and 1981. Extolled by 3 United Nations Secretary Generals as Mr. United Nations for his dedication to freedom, world peace, human rights, and decolonization.
Having been President of the University of the Philippines, that has been a fruitful and meaningful position that I held because it gave me the chance to listen to the youth, to be close to the youth, to be infused by the youth with their impulsiveness and their energy and their determination.
Thank you for your life, General Carlos P. Romulo, the pride of the Philippines, the father of the United Nations Association of the Philippines.
Record high na naman ang nadagdag na bilang sa COVID-19 cases ngayong araw. Sa naglulugan
ang dalamhati sa pagkawala ng COVID-19 hindi na nawala.
At ng House Development
magkaibigan sa kanyang motorsiklo matapos sumalpok.
Taglukaan o yung bunganga mismo na manunutos natin mga kapunin sa ating mga nakalipas na mga video.
Na hindi dulot ng aktibidad sa bunganga ng ilang tubo, kundi ng landslides.
Mahigit libong bagong kaso.
Inalay mo ang buhay mo para sa kapwa-tao. Mahirap man, tuloy pa rin ang laban.
Iniwan ang tahanan upang paglingkuran ng bayan. Tiyahin na ang mapapala sa di makitang banta. Naghila ka, bayani ka, pinasan mo ang hirap para sa iyong bansa. Kayo ang aming yaman at karapatan. Ito'y aming isisigaw kahit saan. Dakila ka, bayani ka, Pilipino ka. Dalangin ko sa'yo, Ama, ingatan mong lahat sila. Silang mga nag-aalaga,
let us come to know Carlos P. Romulo. Carlos P. Romulo was born to Gregorio Romulo and Maria Peña on January 14, 1898 in Camiling, Tarlac. He finished his bachelor's degree at the University of the Philippines. He authored a total of 17 books. In 1941, Romulo received the coveted Pulitzer Prize. He was the only Asian to win America's coveted Pulitzer Prize in journalism. A general in both the U.S. and Philippine armies. Early in life, Romulo was a teacher. He then became president of the University of the Philippines and at the same time, Secretary of Education. Romulo served 8 Philippine presidents, from Manuel L. Quezon to Ferdinand Marcos, as the Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines, and as the country's representative to the United States and to the United Nations. Romulo is perhaps among the most decorated Filipinos in history, which includes 72 honorary degrees from different international institutions and universities, and 144 awards and decorations from foreign countries. General Romulo was a moving force behind
Good morning, Manila. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi, Professor
How's
Alice.
everybody? Happy UN Day.
I'm glad to see you with your Chinese-inspired attire. Well, good
Yes,
evening.
I was about to say, this is Professor Alice Lucas from Tibet.
Welcome, Professor Lucas. And we would like to say good evening to our friends in the United States and other parts of the world. Today is the very, very important event because we are marking a great day to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the very good organization who are saving the world. Today is the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. Professor Lucas?
Yes, I'm also acknowledging the presence of our Honorable Congressman Roman Romulo. Good morning, Kong. You're so early, always on time.
Good morning
Good
po.
morning. Thank you, sir. Good morning to our guests. And also, we are celebrating the Unap, United Nations Association of the Philippines 73rd founding anniversary. And today, we will be presenting an award to a deserving agency. The General Carlos P. Romulo Award will be presented by the United Nations Association of the Philippines. So at this time, may I ask everybody to please stand for the singing of the national anthem, to be followed by a prayer by Dr. Zambrano and the St. Francis prayer. Dr. Rose, unmute with the prayer.
Sa opening remarks dun sa email.
Okay.
Let us listen for the opening prayer of Dr. Zambrano.
Okay.
Yan sa opening remarks.
Wait.
Email.
Wait, please. Still connecting. Hello?
We can hear you.
You're
Loud
in.
and
We can see you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
All right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let us all feel the abiding presence of our God Almighty, our Creator, our life, our love, the King of Kings, the King of creation, the King of the universe. We thank you, Lord, for gathering us today despite the pandemic we are experiencing. We praise you for giving us this opportunity to celebrate the 75th United Nations anniversary. As you are the Prince of Peace, we invoke you to help us to continue to have peace and love, to continue to make peace and love reign in the heart and soul of all nations and peoples of the world. May all nations be instruments of this peace and love, so that this world will be conducive to world brotherhood and progress. For it is only through peace and unity that we will be able to make us one world, working together. This we ask in the mighty name of God, our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Zambrano.
Amen.
And now, may I call our dynamic UNAP President, the chairperson of the UN 75th and the 73rd founding anniversary of the United Nations Association of the Philippines, Dr. Amilu Benitez Reyes. Please unmute.
Pwede na ba? Can
Yes,
you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay,
we can
Yes,
hear you.
yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Welcome on behalf of the UNAP board. We welcome you all to this momentous celebration, United Nations 75th and UNAP 73. Today's event is the most significant. We honor Carlos Romulo as the first president of the United Nations, the father of UNAP. We are more than honored with the presence of the chairman of the Education Committee, no less than the grandson, Roman Romulo, and UNAP's distinguished awardee, the Honorable Secretary of Education, Dr. Leones. Under her leadership, UNAP have been most successful, actively participating in several UN Day celebrations. To name a few, the Youth Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, Literacy Day, International Understanding Peace with Inner Wheel, Girl Child, Rural Development, Eradication of Poverty, and secondly, yesterday, the Stakeholders Day, Risk Reduction and Preparedness for Climate Change. Today's event, honoring Carlos Romulo with the Department of Education as the awardee, we want to dream beyond Romulo. And we believe that this dream, under the first president of UNAP, the United Nations, can envision also Romulo to Duterte. And we believe in the formation that somehow or other the UN and the ASEAN communities can work together for contributing in this entire United Nations goals, as well as the ASEAN way of mothering the Asian way, love of country, love of nation, and above all, working closely together. With the presence of these two significant events and at the same time significant individuals who can perhaps bring about this kind of closer collaboration, we are very optimistic that the UN presence, at the same time the local representatives of education as well as the Congress, we can forge ahead and create new innovative ways that can bridge the gap. And we believe that through this way, the sustainable development, mothering the earth, mothering the church, mothering individuals, can bring about a more cohesive, integrated, as well as collaborative efforts in bringing about this entire concern of world peace. So to all of you, we welcome you all and make this occasion serve as inspiration, the first step towards closer collaboration, so that somehow or other we feel that during the 75th anniversary, the Philippines and the Duterte administration has paved the way of creating a new normal way of using education as the means of transforming society, the communities, and of course, the world. And with that, I welcome you all and hope that this is the first step towards a long journey, but a journey that will have men and women working together, equality for gender partnership, and above all, eradication of poverty through womenomics, the role of women in the global economy. Thank you for this kind of occasion, but above all, we pray that this first step will lead a long way to sustain the memory of Romulo to Duterte, and we hope we, the legatees, the ones who are able to continue the work, can make a difference in this kind of society so that pandemic can be the means to bring about a new ASEAN community. Thank you and good morning to all of you.
Thank you very much, Madam President of the United Nations Association of the Philippines. At this time, let us listen to the presentation of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Noraline Baha, for the Philippines at the United Nations. She will be ably represented by Director Christine Margaret Malang, who is the Director of the United Nations International Organizations and other international organizations, who had a stint from in different parts of the world in Tokyo and in Rome. One of our future ambassadors, Madam Christine Margaret Enjola Malang, for the presentation of the United Nations.
Thank you very much, sir. To Dr. Amelu Benitez Reyes, President of the United Nations Association of the Philippines, or UNAP, the Honorable Congressman Roman Romulo, sir, members and friends of UNAP, on behalf of Assistant Secretary Noraline Jubaira Baha of the Office of United Nations International Organizations of the DFA, good morning and congratulations on the occasion of the 73rd anniversary of UNAP. Today, we are also commemorating the 75th anniversary of the United Nations in the midst of a global pandemic and virtually right at the comforts of our home. When the founders of the UN established the United Nations, we hope to see the UN stand strong in its milestone years like the first, 10th, 25th, 50th, and so on, with celebrations with all its pomp and glamour all over the globe. But for this year, at its 75th year, the UN takes a different course. We celebrate in silence, in distance, in reflection. At this juncture, allow me to share with you the remarks of the Honorable Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Teodoro L. Locsin Jr., during the high-level event to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the UN held virtually last October 2, 2020. Here goes. The idea of a United Nations is a common one since the dawn of civilization. It's been called empire. The quest for it continues. When you hear it called mutually beneficial cooperation, it is the empire talking to itself in the presence of native collaborators. The excuse for empire is the same as the reason for the UN, world peace. But in the former case, Tacitus called it the peace of the graveyard. The only ones above ground are undertakers, the rest are 6 feet under in dungeons and mass graves. The world peace for which the UN has strived through 75 years has mostly been a failure. Yet it is still the only peace we can live with in freedom, dignity, and sufficiency. When the UN Charter was signed, the 51 founding members, including the Philippines, were standing in the ruins of war. Manila was the second most destroyed capital after Warsaw. Its inhabitants had undergone an equal horror. They envisioned a future of recovery, progress, and enduring peace of the kind uniquely associated with the UN in place of the destructive war in history. The Philippines was not yet independent. Its inclusion suggested that the UN was less about states than about people and how states treat them. Thus, the Charter begins with "We, the peoples of the United Nations." In 1946, when the UN official seal was being selected, General Carlos P. Romulo asked, "Where is the Philippines?" "It is too small to include," explained the US Senator heading the committee. "If we put in the Philippines, it would be no more than a dot." But Romulo insisted, "I want that dot." It is more than a charming anecdote. Without that dot, I doubt the Philippines would enjoy territorial waters or exist except as the anonymous annexation of a conquering state. And I'm not saying a seal confers rights, but it keeps inalienable rights like national existence in plain sight on the UN seal. The P5 tend to forget that. As the only world forum, the UN is the main and only globally credible platform of opportunities for preempting violence and ending it after it's broken out, for educating ignorance, curing and containing disease, for ameliorating and in time abolishing poverty, ending injustice and extremism, all enemies of universal values. With the successes and yes failures, through withering, well deserved criticism, the UN has shown its ability to bounce back by reaffirming its continuing relevance against the backdrop of deliberately complicated global issues and threats to world peace and security. The UN is the core of the present multilateral global order and must stay that way. As long as the UN exists, none can trumpet the end of multilateralism. But it must be a UN strengthened in its every member so that together they can achieve peace, to get democracy and prosperity in a world where every state is accountable for the consequences of its action or inaction, where any we, the peoples, can put up a credible fight long enough to make our case for UN help. The UN is a collective of sovereignties. That is its strength. It is not itself a sovereign collective. That is its weakness, but also the secret for its endurance. It remains the focal point of the unceasing human pursuit of good in the face of an equally relentless human pursuit of evil. Much as states dislike outside interference in their internal affairs, when their actions exceed the bounds of plain humanity, interference is a duty of humanity. But a clear case has to be made in a world where lying has achieved a level of perfection far exceeding the capacity for truth. At its 75th year, we renew our commitment to end the scourge of war, uphold justice and human rights, keep the peace and stay secure. In all things, act with decency, which requires no explanation. You know decency when you see it, it is indecent when you don't. A case soon to be made in point will be the universal availability of COVID vaccines without requiring any people, class, or country to submit to another's will as the price of cure. Withholding the vaccine, the most effective means of mass salvation, is a weapon of mass destruction. The UN now remains the essential organization. Once again, our felicitations to UNAP for your 73rd anniversary, and to all of us, the peoples of the United Nations, for the 75th year of our organization. Thank you, and once again, good morning to all.
Sorry, I was unmute. Thank you very much, Ambassador Noraline Baha of the BFA United Nations International Organization. And thank you very much, Director Christine Margaret Malang, for that information. Happy 75th United Nations Day. At this time, may we play a peace song, Ryan?
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love.
Thank you very much. And we hope that all of us will be a channel of peace. At this time, I will introduce to you the next speaker who lives in the pandemic epicenter of the world. He has lived in New York City, where he can see where he lives the United Nations in front of him. He was sent as a young person here in the United States to reach out for peace to different parts of the world and people. The person who has been speaking all over the world, in the 7 continents of the world. He is the highest Filipino who had attained the presidency of Conference of Non-Government Organization, and also the Assistant Secretary General for United Nations and Interreligious. Friends, let us all welcome the Reverend Dr. Liberato Levi Bautista to discuss strengthening NGO participation in the United Nations. Dr. Levi.
Excellencies, distinguished leaders and members of the United Nations Association of the Philippines, government officials and civil servants, esteemed civil society and NGO colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Gabi ngayon dito sa New Jersey. Thank you, Dr. Amelie Benitez Reyes, you and your colleague officers at Unap, including and especially Rick Cruz, who introduced me to you, have done me great honor by your invitation to address this august annual gathering. I am truly grateful. It is right and fitting, indeed truly remarkable, that today marks a dual celebration of the 75th anniversary of the United Nations and your 73rd anniversary as the United Nations Association of the Philippines. I address you today in my capacity as president of this global non-governmental organization called Congo, the Conference of NGOs in Consultative Relationship with the United Nations. Congo is an independent international membership association of more than 100 NGOs of varying consultative relationship with the United Nations system. Congo was founded in the year of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So we are also into our 73rd year of existence like UNAP. Of a total of 5,451 NGOs in consultative relationship with the UN Economic and Social Council, Congo is one of only 134 NGOs that have the highest consultative status, the general consultative status. NGOs are accorded either a general, special, or raster status with the UN through an application process conducted by the Committee on NGOs of the Economic and Social Council. Distilled into a singular statement, the aim of Congo is to ensure that the historic role of non-governmental organizations of the UN are not only preserved, but also innovated upon, so that NGO presence and representation in this international arena is meaningful and beneficial, both to the membership, constituency, and network of NGOs, and to the UN itself, which needs NGO knowledge and expertise, as well as the widespread geographic, trans-border, and transnational reach of NGOs. What is now called Congo was called in 1948 as the Conference of Consultative NGOs, whose founding chair was Howard E. Wilson of the influential Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Carnegie was the first president of Congo. Today, I follow a long line of distinguished presidents representing NGOs that demonstrate the width and breadth of NGO presence and influence in their countries and at the UN. And if you will, in the multilateral arena as much as in local and national arenas where the true strength and influence of NGOs matter. In recalling here the succession of presidents of Congo from 1948 to the present, I hope you will notice that width and breadth of NGO presence and influence I spoke about earlier. In the order of their election, the presidents of Congo came from Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, from the Commission of Churches on International Affairs of the World Council of Churches, World Jewish Congress, International Council of Women, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Friends World Committee for Consultation, otherwise known as the Quakers, International Federation of Christian Trade Unions, the League of Red Cross Societies was once a Congo president, World Federation of United Nations Associations, of which you are a member, was a president of Congo, leaders from International Social Service, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, World Union of Catholic Women Organizations, Education International, Society for International Development, Arab Lawyers Union, and my own organization, the United Methodist Church Board of Church and Society. Then also the Union of International Associations based in Brussels and the Environment Liaison Center International based in Nairobi. The way to strengthen NGO presence at the UN, which is what you asked me to address, is by bringing NGOs with varied width and breadth of knowledge and expertise in as many thematic areas of UN work in as vast a geographic location as possible from all of the political regions that the world has been divided into by the UN. Today, there are human rights NGOs, development NGOs, environmental NGOs, humanitarian NGOs, women's NGOs, and so much more. I hope you have noticed that one of the former presidents of Congo came from Wifuna, Dr. Marek Hadjmager, who was Wifuna's Secretary General in the 1980s and served as Congo president between 1985 and 1991. I still cherish today communication with Marek, who is based in Poland. UNAP, in a way, is indirectly related to Congo through its membership in Wifuna. Today, there are a few other UNAs that are members of Congo. May I reiterate the invitation to UNAP, which I have expressed to Rick, to become a member of Congo. I treasure my relationship with UNAs. After all, I was the chair of the United Nations Association of the United States of America Council of Organizations between 2006 and 2007. Earlier, I mentioned 1948 as Congo's birth year. It was also the year the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Just as there were NGO observers at the San Francisco Conference of International Organizations that established the UN in 1945, NGOs were also present at the adoption in Paris of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. From 1945 to 1948, the mettle of NGOs as crucial partners of the nascent but preeminent UN and the mechanisms and instruments that were to define the work that will advance the three pillars of the UN have started to matter. Some of the NGOs present in San Francisco and Paris were founding members of Congo. I have been fortunate to be the Congo president in 2008, my first term, when the 60th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was celebrated in Paris. I was invited to keynote the opening plenary representing the non-governmental organizations. It was a signal honor that I remain to treasure to this day. In that same year of 2008, under my presidency, the Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt Institute and the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs partnered with Congo and with me through the Swiss entity called Les Amis de Congo, or Friends of Congo. and a few other distinguished groups to celebrate Eleanor Roosevelt's leadership role in chairing the drafting of the Universal Declaration. Congo and certainly other NGOs were recognized for their role in the promotion of human rights. It was a recognition by peer NGOs, by UN member states, and by the UN system as a whole. It is no wonder that NGOs related to the UN are strong defenders of human rights, of its mechanisms and instruments, including the Human Rights Council. They too are steady defenders of human rights defenders who have themselves become an endangered lot. The promotion of inherent dignity and the protection of human rights are in the NGO DNA. In that same DNA are the prospering of peace and security, the securing of sustainable development, and the rule of law, so that human and social progress for people and sustainability for the planet may be ensured. Ladies and gentlemen, to the degree that governments and NGOs agree on these fundamentals, partnerships are possible, they exist, and sometimes in abundance. NGOs evolve and innovate so that they can become a truly civilizing force in society. And by that, I mean NGOs advocating for a society that aims in governance and in the social order an economics of sustainability and equity, a politics of empowerment and participatory democracy, and a culture of peace and inclusion, all under the aegis of freedoms and liberties contemplated by our best understanding of available bills of rights enshrined in national constitutions and in international law. If you will, NGOs are the Socratic gadfly in society, intervening in the public square when that public square shrinks and shirks from being a democratic space. It intervenes on behalf of the governed, if only to protect their dignity and rights as peoples and as citizens. That intervention straddles the national and international arenas. It also has the potential to expose the wide swath between fiction and reality in the way the UN ideals are pursued in the national and domestic settings. The presence of NGOs at the intergovernmental level is not new, and certainly not alien to the United Nations. It has juridical basis in the very fact that the role of NGOs is enshrined from the very beginning in the UN Charter. Article 71 of the Charter says, the Economic and Social Council may make suitable arrangements for consultation with non-governmental organizations which are concerned with matters within its competence. Article 71 is regarded as the instance at which the term NGO has been given a name and status in international law. From 1945 onwards, what NGOs are and what they can do remain as an area of innovation. ECOSOC Resolution 1996/31 gave the most comprehensive elaboration of Article 71. With the introduction of the term civil society organization, CSO, the lacuna of both space for NGOs to cover and thematic expertise to lend remains vast and is ever expanding. This dynamic led for both celebration but also controversy, not the least due to competing conceptions of both the nation states. And I am glad how Ambassador Barra has explained this. Not the least due to competing conceptions of both the nation state system as we know it from the legacy of modernity, that is the Westphalian legacy, but also of the evolution of that legacy as it evolved from the ashes of historic slavery, colonialism, genocide, and world wars, for which reason the United Nations was born, to avert this for future generations. Confronting these challenges at the local and global levels spawned social movements that gave birth to both the notion and practice of civil society, and in its organized form, the NGO. The NGOs that relate to the UN are as varied as the universe of thematic issues and geographic concerns that the UN tackles. That Congo has general consultative status at the UN means that it has proven in its accreditation and its work that its work covers the entire gamut of United Nations concerns. That includes the variety of religious and faith-based NGOs at the UN. I mention this because I represent the United Methodist Church at the UN as an NGO at the UN which is faith-based. And this NGO is also a member of Congo. Today, the UN is able to accomplish many and accomplish them well because of the collaboration of non-governmental organizations. The World Food Programme, this year's recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, cannot do its work well without the collaboration of NGOs, humanitarian and development NGOs on the ground to make sure that food is distributed, that hunger is tackled, and that it is not used as a weapon of war. I mentioned the important role of faith-based NGOs because a good number of them were part of the original NGOs invited in San Francisco for the UN founding and in Paris for the adoption of the UDHR. I mention it also because of the role the Philippine government has played in discussions at the UN about interfaith dialogue. And I pay tribute to Ambassador Gatan, who was then stationed in New York, in particular with his work and the work of the UN Philippine mission at the UN on the United Nations General Assembly resolution, promotion of religious and cultural understanding, harmony, and cooperation. The bedrock of the enjoyment of religious liberty, indeed of the freedom of religion or belief, is enshrined in Article 18 of the UDHR, whose drafting, I want you to know, was initiated and influenced by faith-based NGOs. Together with American Eleanor Roosevelt and French René Cassin, Dr. Otto Frederick Nolde is credited for having written several drafts of what is now Article 18, which says, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Dr. Naldi was a human rights pioneer who was professor of Christian education and dean of the graduate school at the Lutheran Theological Seminary at Philadelphia, and was the director of the Commission of the Churches in International Affairs of the World Council of Churches when he drafted Article 18 for Eleanor Roosevelt to consider. It is that same organization that is active today in the work of the UN and the Human Rights Council. Dr. Naldi, together with John Foster Dulles, for those of you who may be in the audience with its international affairs or US American history, you will recognize the name of John Foster Dulles, who was involved in the drafting of the 6 Pillars of Peace, conducted by the Commission to Study the Basis of a Just and Durable Peace, that was organized by the Federal Council of Churches, which is now the National Council of Churches of Christ in the USA, which is the sister organization of the National Council of Churches in the Philippines. By the time John Foster Dulles went as principal advisor to the US delegation at the signing of the United Nations Charter in San Francisco, Mr. Dulles was already the US Secretary of State. The 6 Pillars of Peace, whose drafting he chaired, no doubt informed his role in the crafting of the UN as the primordial instrument for a durable peace. and just when the imagination of statecraft and international relations is freshly informed by two devastating world wars and the genocide prior to its foundation. Here, you see the positive collaboration between religious NGOs and member state delegations in the all too important norm and standard setting role of the United Nations. Today, ecumenical, multi-faith, and interfaith initiatives abound. I was one of 3 initiators of what is now called the International Symposium on the Role of Religion in International Affairs, in partnership with 17 United Nations agencies, commissions, and funds. They are called the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Religion and Development, running for the 7th year. This is a testament to the strong ties of faith-based bodies with the UN system. I would not fail to mention that I was the former chair of the Committee of Religious NGOs at the UN, and several Filipino organizations have joined meetings in New York in the recent past. The interaction of religion and religious bodies with the modern nation state cannot be reduced to our understanding today of what the Treaty of Westphalia ended in the 1640s, for which we credit the birth of the modern nation state and our notions today of sovereignty. And again, our good ambassador spoke to that. But it also speaks of the separation of religion and the state. Of course, that relation is complex and intricate. One that can be said is that at the core of religious understandings and beliefs are precepts that expand freedoms, that secure rights, that promote development and sustain peace. Religions, along with indigenous faith, ethical and cultural traditions, are a source of normative values that can and have inspired the evolution of the theory and practice of peace, sustainability, human rights, and development. Religions play important roles in shaping local, national, regional, and international norms and conduct, including and especially those that evolved through the United Nations processes, including and especially those norms and processes. Such norms and standards affirm the universality, indivisibility, and interdependence of human rights, including the freedom of religion or belief. I would like to close my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, by telling you why the United Methodist Church is yoked to the life of the United Nations. As a church, we say that we endorse the UN, its related bodies, the International Court of Justice, and the International Criminal Court as the best instruments now in existence to achieve a world of justice and law. One historical fact that we Methodists hold dear in our memory, and I bet I would be surprised to know if there is any one of you who know this part of history, is that the Methodist Central Hall across Westminster Abbey in London was the host of the inaugural General Assembly of the United Nations in January 1946. Methodists hosted the first assembly of the United Nations in January 1946 in London. 17 years later, in 1962, the Board of Christian Social Concerns of the Methodist Church in the United States erected the Church Center for the United Nations, or CCUN, and stands as a 12-story edifice across the United Nations headquarters in New York. It is a United Methodist commitment to the United Nations as early as 1945, and it stands tall today as a home for non-governmental organizations doing business with the United Nations. Because of CCUN, the roles of NGOs are given a more visible, tangible presence at the UN. This allows space for NGOs to prepare to address the UN from a perspective of we the peoples. We the peoples of the United Nations is a preambular statement of the UN Charter. NGOs have come a long way to imagine what it means and what it takes to convince governments and the multilateral system that the UN is not just an assemblage of disparate governments working through agreed agendas. It, in fact, constitutes we the peoples. When I addressed the 75th UN anniversary, just like what you're doing today, when I addressed the Dallas chapter in Texas of the United Nations Association of the USA this past June, I say these words, and by this I end my intervention. Quote, because of we the peoples, I dare say that the notion of the international has been redefined. The true and lasting multilaterals are peoples, you and me. Over the centuries, nation states have been formed and reformed. What remained are peoples whose allegiances to one state or another have changed over time, but whose yearnings have not changed. The yearnings for peace, for human rights, for sustainable development, for ecological justice, for racial justice, for climate justice, for gender justice, and so much more. And lest we forget, one unfinished agenda of the UN is the decolonization and eventual self-determination of peoples and nations for which original populations, including indigenous peoples, continue to struggle for today. Just like the dreamers of the UN, these multilaterals of peoples of the United Nations are seizing their Kairos moment to give platforms to their voice and agency to say no to racism, to xenophobia and bigotry, no to global poverty, no to global warming, no to global pandemics, no to wars, no to nuclear armaments, no to plunderous economic arrangements and predatory financial agreements, no to gender inequality, and so much more no's. The UN was the genius of imagination to rise like a phoenix from the ashes of colonialisms, of imperialisms, wars, and genocide into an arrangement in which people and nations may yet craft a better arrangement for the prosperity of people's lives and the sustainability of the planet Earth. I congratulate you today, especially Dr. Leonor Biones, whom I know from her activist years, for receiving the Carlos Romulo Award. What a fitting occasion indeed to honor a quintessential public servant and equally a quintessential NGO activist. I bid you look at NGOs with some insights from what I have shared. Perhaps take a second look at how you have seen them work, not just in the Philippines, at the UN, but elsewhere. We have work to do. Let's do them consultatively, collaboratively, and cooperatively. But let's work safely under pandemic conditions. So maraming salamat po. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat.
Wow, it was a revelation to us that you were once a representative of the United Nations Association of the United States. Thank you very much, Reverend Levy. Now, for our next guest speaker, today had been declared by World Health Organization as International Year of the Nurses and Midwives. Our next guest speaker is a nurse by profession. She is also the 75th UN chairperson in the government sector. And in the Philippines, she has requested PRRD to declare this year as Philippine International Year of Healthcare Workers. And to discuss this proclamation, let us welcome Sandy Montano, who is the chairperson of the Philippine Commission Women. Thank you.
To be reading the proclamation done by our president, I may read the
Chairperson Sandy Chapi. Your internet is choppy.
Am I okay now? Can you hear me?
Make it a
Uh,
bit louder.
Okay. So by the President uh, of the Republic of the Philippines, he had his proclamation number 976, declaring the year 2020 as the year of Filipino healthcare workers. Whereas Section 15, Article 2 of the 1987 declares it is the policy of the state to protect and promote the rights of health of the people and instill health among them. Whereas on 24th of May 2019, the World Health Organization for WHO declared 2020 as International Year of the Nurse and Midwife in recognition of the vital role of such health workers in giving citizens growth and universal health coverage. Whereas the Philippines, our country, as one of the member states of the World Health Organization, supports this declaration and adopts the call to honor and celebrate all nurses, midwives, and other healthcare workers whose hard work and dedication have led to the saving of countless lives, improvement of the overall health of men, and ultimately the betterment of our. Whereas the state recognizes the invaluable contribution of nurses, midwives, and all other health workers as the backbone of the country's health system, whether in promoting health consciousness, performing mental, medical, and health services, or responding to health crisis environments. Whereas thousands of Filipino health workers who comprise a major component of the nation's labor force selflessly and tirelessly provide essential, quality, and critical care to individuals, families, and groups even in the face of great peril, fear, and vulnerability. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has greatly affected the country and most nations worldwide and has posed a daunting challenge to the country's health sector. Whereas there is a need to commemorate the immeasurable act of heroism and selfless compassion of nurses, midwives, and healthcare workers, and give due honor to those who sacrifice their lives in the line of service, especially during this extraordinary time. Now, therefore, I, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, President of the Republic of the Philippines, by virtue of the powers vested in me by the Constitution and existing laws, do hereby declare year 2020 as the year of Filipino healthcare workers. The Department of Health shall lead, coordinate, and supervise the nationwide observance of the year of healthcare workers, all other agencies, and instrumentalities of the national government, including government-owned or controlled corporations and state universities and colleges, are hereby directed, and all local government systems, communities, relevant civil society groups, and professional organizations are hereby encouraged to actively participate and render the necessary support and assistance to the Department of Health for the effective implementation of the program. All national and local publications, television networks, and radio stations are also encouraged to promote and generate awareness as well as public support for the programs and activities relative to the celebration of the Year of the Filipino Health Workers, in witness whereof I hereby answer unto send my hand and cause the seal of the Republic of the Philippines to be done in the city of Manila on the 6th day of July, in the year of our Lord 2020, by the President Salvador Almeida II. So it was duly signed by the President July 6, proclaiming year 2020 as the year of the health worker. So we are so privileged and we're so honored to be sharing this proclamation with everyone but by or partners with UNAP and United Nations. For this, it's such a very big feat for our healthcare providers, but also for nurses, but for all the frontliners, the backliners who really help one way or another um, fight this COVID-19 pandemic, not only the Philippines, but I would like to thank UNAP for giving me this opportunity to read the proclamation, and on behalf of my office, we will be actively working hand in hand promoting this year as the year of digital healthcare. Good day at maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson of the Philippine Commission on Women, Ms. Sandy Montano, for requesting His Excellency President Rodrigo Roa Duterte about this presidential proclamation proclaiming 2020 as International Year of Healthcare Workers. And before the year ends, we will conduct some activities to honor our frontliners. Thank you, President Duterte, for listening to the nurses like Madam Sandy Montano. Maraming salamat.
Yeah, but before I introduce our next guest speaker, may I acknowledge the presence of Honorable Secretary Leonor Briones. She's already in. Okay, so now for our next guest speaker. He is a graduate of economics from the University of the Philippines with a postgraduate degree in law from the University of the Philippines College of Law. This person has had numerous positions in the Congress in the Lone District of Pasig City and across various committees, from basic education and culture to national defense to human rights, to name a few. And the legislative positions he has held were not for nothing. He has co-authored 110 bills, has authored 66 bills, and has enacted 8 bills into law. Some of the latter include the Ladderized Education of Act 2014, the Scholar ng Bayan Act of 2014, and the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Aside from the aforesaid legislations, his representation also authored and was also to push for the passage of the following by the House of Representatives and respective committees. House Resolution number 518, which expedited the availability of funds for the rehabilitation of state universities and colleges that were affected by the different calamities, and House Resolution 1325, which allocated funds to cover the unpaid salaries of faculty members of state universities and colleges. These are just among this man's accomplishments, and an entire day would not even suffice to cover all that he has contributed to our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very much privileged to introduce to you, and please help me welcome our lawyer, public servant, and humanitarian, Honorable Congressman Roman P. Romulo.
Maraming salamat po. Dr. Amelu Benitez Reyes, President of Unap, Secretary Liling Briones of the Department of Education, the DFA family with us, fellow guests, a good day to everyone. Let me first thank the United Nations Association of the Philippines for pushing through with its activities to commemorate UNAP's 73rd founding anniversary and the United Nations 75th anniversary during this time of COVID-19. The UN was organized in 1945 to bring about world peace by uniting the different nations of the world, big or small. Today, we all face a different challenge, that of COVID-19. But the solution, a united cooperation amongst all the nations of the world, big or small, is what is needed. During the organization and early years of the UN, General Carlos P. Romulo, though physically small and representing a little nation, made himself and the Philippines relevant in the United Nations. From the first line he ever spoke at the UN plenary, Let us make this floor the last battlefield. To his last service in the UN as President of the United Nations Security Council in 1981, General Romulo showed Filipinos that we as a nation and as individuals can make a contribution and be significant in the world stage. Today, we see many Filipinos making a contribution and being significant in the national and world stage during COVID-19. Amongst them, the frontliners, medical professionals, teachers, farmers, drivers, garbage collectors, police and military personnel, barangay workers, amongst others. We Filipinos felt proud of our fellow Filipinos when Piers Morgan commended the outstanding care of Filipino nurses in the United Kingdom battling the COVID-19 pandemic. Or when Filipina nurse Minnie Clepas received the British Empire Medal for her tireless work. Many of our Filipino medical professionals and scientists are continuously contributing their research and expertise to develop cures for COVID-19 and testing kits that may prove beneficial not only in the Philippines but globally. Many of our frontliners, military and police personnel, farmers, teachers, drivers, barangay workers, convenience stores personnel, amongst others, man their post during ECQ, MECQ, and GCQ, ignoring the risks to their health due to COVID-19. The Philippines is not wanting in heroes or role models. Early on, General Romulo recognized and embraced the burden which you and I equally bear. The burden of being an heir to an incredibly rich history and a limitless future. Let us not only hope, but ensure that the Filipino youth is made aware and embraces this burden. Bearing this in mind, as chairperson of the Committee on Basic Education and Culture, we have steered the passage of laws that will strengthen the character of our youth. One of these, Republic Act number 11476, the Good Manners and Right Conduct Act. Through this measure, the basic tenets of good manners and right conduct, such as caring for oneself, having concern for others, according respect to people, upholding discipline and order, and cultivating sincerity, honesty, obedience, and above all, love for country will be reinforced in our youth. As General Romulo continues to serve as an inspiration to many of us, let us continue to talk about his life and writings to the Filipino youth. His life is best exemplified by his own words. I am a Filipino, inheritor of a glorious past, hostage to the uncertain future. As such, I must prove equal to a twofold task. The task of meeting my responsibility to the past and the task of performing my obligations to the future. Magandang araw po sa ating lahat at mabuhay po ang bawat Pilipino. Maraming salamat po. God bless po. Stay safe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Congressman Roman Romulo. And I'm touched with what you say that Filipinos can be significant in world stage. And thank you for helping the passage of the Good Manners and Right Conduct Law. Salamat po, sir. At this time, we will have the most awaited awarding of the General Carlos P. Romulo Award. May we call on the chairperson of the awards committee, Dr. all the way from Bicol region. May I call on Dr. Ramona Bustamante Ranieses. Madam Ramona.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am very much honored and pleased to announce the Carlos P. Romulo Award for the year 2020. And may I have the pleasure to read the text of the plaque. United Nations Association of the Philippines, UNAP, member, World Federation of United Nations Association, WAFUNA, UNAP Founding Father General Carlos Peña Romulo Award on the occasion of the 75th founding anniversary of the United Nations and of the UNAP's 73rd anniversary, acknowledges with highest commendation Department of Education for its outstanding service in educating young people on the significant roles of the United Nations over the years and supporting UNAP's programs and projects, encouraging participation of their constituencies. For being in the forefront, inculcating the United Nations goals and ideals, promoting culture of peace, sustaining Filipino heritage for progress, inculcating humanism in development work and values formation, freedom, peace, and self-reliance, achieving independence, for producing innumerable persons imbibing multifaceted characteristics of Carlos P. Romulo's leadership, both locally, nationally, and internationally. Together, his achievements, providing role models, namely a soldier, general, diplomat, statesman, ambassador, university president, cabinet education secretary, devoted family man, producing generation of successful offsprings who continue his works and commitment as dedicated public servants, now serving the Duterte administration. In recognition of the contributions of the men and women of the Department of Education, headed by Dr. Leonor Magtolis Briones, this award is likewise being bestowed upon all those who serve and continue, and most significantly to His Excellency, President Rodrigo Duterte, for commitment that education is investment in human capital as the institution for education transformation. Given this 24th day of October 2020 in Manila, Philippines. Signed, Bert Hasmin Tuga, PhD, Executive Director, Alice Aguilar Lucas, Executive Secretary, Lilia Casanova, Vice President for External Affairs, Roderick Cruz, Convenor, Second Stakeholders Forum, and Liaison Officer for UN Matters. Mona Dumlao Valisno, PhD, Immediate Past President. Aurora Navarrete Resina, President Emeritus. Ramona Ines R. Bustamante Rañeses, PhD, Chairperson, Awards Committee. Amilu Benitez Reyes, PhD, President. Congratulations to the Department of Education for being our Carlos P. Romulo awardee for the year 2020. Let's give the DepEd a warm applause.
May we call on the United Nations Association of the Philippines to virtually give this to Secretary Leonor Briones. Madam Amelu.
Yes, it's a great honor and pride for us to be able to give this award to the Department of Education. May we now request the plaque to be put on screen so that we can virtually hand over to her. May we request our honoree to be acknowledged and to be with us, to be seen on screen so that we can hand it to her virtually. Madam Secretary, are you around?
Yes.
Oh, welcome. We are proud of your presence here. You give great honor to UNAP and more than anything else to the Carlos Romulo Award. And may we request the Honorable Chairman of the Department of Congress, Education, to stand as witness to this heroic, significant day. Sorry for that. Madam Briones, virtually, we'd like you to receive the award, Carlos P. Romulo Award.
I'll tell you why.
Spotlight, please, to the secretary. Spotlight, please, to the secretary. Spotlight. Honorable Secretary Briones.
Congratulations to the Department of Education. May we now hear a response from our awardee, the Department of Education Secretary Briones. Madam.
Yes. Excellencies, and I would like to make a special mention of Honorable Congressman Romulo, who is chair of the Committee on Basic Education in Congress and who has traveled with the department over very exciting and challenging roads at this time of the pandemic and the numerous challenges to the journey towards the new normal in education. Thank you very much. This is a great honor for the Department of Education to be recognized not only on an individual basis, but as an institution and all the decades of its contribution to the molding, mentoring, and shaping of our learners in the country, who now number nearly 25 million children and learners. I was only in high school, or was it elementary, when the entire country was so thrilled and proud of the achievements of General Romulo, not only in the sphere of United Nations work, but also in literature and essay writing, as well as in affairs of the country itself. I remember reciting I am a Filipino, which was a required, Congressman, it was a required reading, and you would have speaking contests on I am a Filipino. So we know we don't call him General Romulo. It was more of his work in the United Nations that we were taught at the time that we were students in high school, and eventually in college. And so it is a great honor for me now as Secretary of the Department of Education to receive this award named in honor of perhaps one of the greatest Filipinos ever produced by our country. And it's also a source of great satisfaction that his, what shall I call you, Congressman, descendants, the Romulo dynasty, a very positive dynasty, has been contributing to national development all these decades. I have worked with the father of Congressman Romulo in the Senate as we tackled various issues related to the economy and national development. So thank you very much on behalf of the Department of Education. On a personal note, it's good to be reunited with members of Unap. Congratulations on your 73rd founding anniversary, even as we also celebrate the 75th UN Day anniversary of the United Nations. It's good to see all of you again. I'm a regular attendee of many of your events, some of them abroad. During an earlier life, all of us have many lives as a member of civil society, particularly Social Watch Philippines and Freedom from Debt Coalition. So it's good to meet up with you again, whether it's in the Philippines or elsewhere. I have worked with United Nations agencies, particularly on the Millennium Development Goals, with UNDP, and now on the Social Development Goals, or the SDGs, as former coordinator of Social Watch Philippines, because Social Watch Philippines monitors the implementation of social development goals, particularly, and this time we are focusing on the implementation of SDG goals in education. So whether personally or institutionally, the United Nations has always been part of my life work, my professional commitments, and as it is in the lives of many of our distinguished leaders and personalities in the country. Only yesterday, I was at the Global Education Conference, or GEM, of UNESCO, wherein much emphasis was placed on the necessity to continue the learning process, to continue opening schools even as we are facing the dangers and the threats of COVID-19. And DepEd joins the rest of the country in honoring our frontliners. We also work very closely with the United Nations on Children's Emergency Fund, with the UNICEF, because after all, our learners, and as I said, there are 25 million of them, are children largely. We also work very closely with the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. The Department of Education is a major signatory to the movement for safe schools. We have placed posters and notices in all of our schools that stating very clearly and evocably that schools should be kept safe. Schools should not be used as venues for conflicts. And whenever we hear of developments wherein conflict takes place in the vicinity of our schools, we immediately take action. So we are one of the leading signatories on the Safe Schools movement in the United Nations. And of course, the Department of Education is also very active with the UN Organization for Population, because we are all aware that teenage pregnancy is on the rise. We are also very active in the anti-AIDS campaigns, anti-smoking campaigns, very, very, very active sa anti-smoking. And of course, on the matter of drugs, which is afflicting many of the countries of the world, including that of the Philippines. So it is good to be reunited, to get together once more and pay tribute to the contributions, to the advice, and to the help of United Nations organizations in our journey towards, as I said, what we describe as new normal, although I would not really describe it as new normal in education, because the strategies that we are implementing, I'm sure Dr. Amelu recognizes them. Blended learning goes all the way back to our times. And we really appreciate the support that Congress, through Congressman Romulo, has given to the Department of Education. Support, advice, and of course, updates and necessary criticism as we make our journey. So thank you very much on behalf of the Department of Education. The road is quite, it can be bumpy, but with the support of the United Nations organizations, they have come out very strongly for continuity in education. We have utilized the global studies as well as studies here in the Philippines on the dangers and the threats of, stopping the process of education. We have consulted with many of the concerned UN agencies, and UN will always be with us, especially in education, as the houses of Congress and the Senate have always supported our endeavors. So thank you very much. Personal greetings to all of you, and I look forward to meeting you in many of the UN activities, especially those which are directly related to education. Thank you for this honor. Good morning and good day to all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Briones, for your love to the Filipino people, to the children, and to all of us. And thank you for being a shining star of hope to the Philippines. Congratulations for maintaining a safe school that cannot be used as a venue for conflicts. God bless your leadership. God bless the Department of Education. And congratulations again, Madam. At this time, we will give our certificate of recognition to our speaker. The United Nations 75th Anniversary Philippines Committee, the United Nations Association of the Philippines, member World Federation of United Nations Association in Geneva, presents this certificate of recognition is awarded to the Honorable Congressman Roman Romulo, Congressman Lone District of Pasig City, Chairperson Committee on Higher Education and Technical Education of the House of the Representative of the Philippines, for sharing his valuable knowledge as a resource speaker during the 75th anniversary of the United Nations Day. and UNAP at 73rd, and the preservation of the General Carlos P. Romulo, presentation of the General Carlos P. Romulo Award, held on October 24, 2020 via Zoom, given this 24th of October 2020, signed UNAP President Amelia Lourdes Benitez Reyes. Thank you very much, Congressman Roman Romulo. We will also be given a recognition to Ambassador Noraline Baha and her representative, the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs, United Nations and International Organization. Also, we are recognizing the PCW Chairperson, Madam Sandy Montano. Thank you very much, Sandy. And all the way from New York, thank you very much, Reverend Liberato Bautista, Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations Ministry. At this time, thank you, sirs and ma'am. At this time, we have a short intermission number all the way from Bicol. May we call on Dr. Ramona Ranieses. Dr. Ranieses, please.
Yes, good morning again, once again, everyone. I will give you a song from the Broadway musical, The Sound of Music. And this is Climb Every Mountain. And this is a very apt song to think of the many travails and the many hardships to hurdle, as well as the many tasks, the multifaceted taskings that we are given, which requires a lot of patience and endurance. So we may cross rivers, we may cross streams and mountains, but we have to keep on going until we find our dream. Tom, please. Music, please.
The song is very beautiful. Dr. Ramona, I think you are unmuted. So I will ask Ma'am Alice, but we were able to hear the accompaniment, but we were not able to hear your voice. So
Oh.
after the remarks,
Oh,
I will ask again.
Really?
At this time,
no, you do not have a sound. We thought it's just instrumental.
Oh,
How come there is no sound?
oh my God, you did not hear the voice.
At this
Can we
time,
hear it again?
we will hear it again after remarks. At
Maybe
this
after
time,
because we have.
Wow.
I'll be willing to sing again.
Sure.
and Secretary of the United Nations Association of the Philippines, Professor Alice Lucas, for her closing remarks.
Okay. While 2020 has proven that we currently live in an unprecedented times, we likewise celebrate the benefits of the nurses, midwives, and healthcare workers bring to the health of the global population, for without them, none of us will be here today. The world is indeed blessed to have them, especially now that we are faced with a global crisis, and still they continue to be at the forefront of this battle for each and every single one of us. In these trying times, we must also appreciate the contribution and the role that the Philippines plays at the United Nations and how far we have gone from way back in the 1940s. The United Nations Association of the Philippines and the work that we do has always been inspired by the service of General Carlos P. Romulo. We served as President of the United Nations Conference on Freedom of Information in Geneva in 1948 and of the United Nations General Assembly from 1949 to 1950, and also when he served as member and chairman of the council when the president was elected to a seat on the United Nations Security Council in 1956. It is already 2020, yet his involvement in and contribution to the United Nations continues to move as an organization up to this day. As such, we also recognize the vital role that civic society and non-governmental organizations play in the international system of work that the United Nations does as relates social development issues and world peace. We know how valuable CSOs and NGOs' contribution are, the information and ideas that they share, their advocacies for positive change, and their assistance in emergencies and development efforts. They are indispensable partners, and we hope that this partnership will continue to strengthen us with all work to make the world a better place. Congratulations for making this event a success and the UNAP board for all your support. Lastly, to our Zoom host, PNU, through the goodness of their university president, Bert Tuga. Happy United Nations Day to all. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Madam UNAP Secretary, Madam
Can we have a
Alice Lucas.
picture, all of us? All of us
Yeah.
can have a picture. Perhaps you can have a picture with everybody. Is that possible now?
Yeah, our host will do that for us.
Now?
Please
Yes.
stay, smile.
We would like to thank the Department of Education, the Department of Education International ICO Office, Dr. Margarita Ballesteros and her staff, the Philippine Commission on Women, the Conference of Non-Government Organization, the Department of Foreign Affairs, all the UNAP board and members and volunteers, of course, the Honorable Congressman Roman Romulo, and the Philippine Normal University, and everybody who had supported us.
And also the Inner Wheel Clubs of the Philippines, represented by our national past president, Donna Zhao.
So have we done the video? We can ask Dr. Ramona Ranieses for the closing
Song.
song.
Closing song.
Pampagana.
Pampagana for lunch.
Kaya pala hindi ako narinig kasi hindi pwede yung piano and my voice together.
We will have a good lunch after your song.
Acapella ka lang, acapella.
Dapat daw a cappella.
Okay.
Tom, please.
Ma'am, cannot play the, ma'am, you just do it a cappella. Sorry po.
No, just give me the first note. Just give me the first note. Let me listen to the first note. And then you just cut it right away.
Dr. Ballesteros is now in.
Ryan, can you play and then off na lang kagad? Thank you.
Search high and low, follow every byway, every path you know, climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you find your dream, a dream that will need all the love you can give every day of your life, for as long as you live. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you find your dream, a dream that will need all the love you can give every day of your life, for as long as you live. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you find your dream. Bow.
Yay! Kala ko
Yay!
mababasag,
Palakpakan.
kala ko mababasag yung glass dyan sa likod mo.
Station.
Great,
God bless
great.
Let us acknowledge the presence of Dr. Marge Ballesteros. She just came in. She might
Hi,
like
Doc.
to say something, Doc Ballesteros. Doc, are you there? Doc Marge?
I think he is in a Zoom meeting. Thank you very much, DepEd ICO, Dr. March Ballesteros. I think we have to leave the Zoom meeting because we are live stream at the DepEd and DepEd ICO Facebook. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Congratulations, DepEd.
Hi, Pastor. How are you, LJ?
I'm okay.
Nice to see you.
Happy 73rd UNAP anniversary.
Yeah.
And congratulations to the Department of Education. Until next time, as we celebrate the United Nations event and as we protect our country and our people and strengthen our support to the only organizations that will save the world, and that is the United Nations. Thank you very much, Ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you to DepEd.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the
Congratulations,
Department of
Secretary Briones.
Education as
Thank
Very
you
much to
CPR.
all of
very
you.
much. I hope during
Secretary,
our next
uh,
celebration, someone will recite again to refresh our memories. General Romulo's I am a Filipino. It's very
we had that,
powerful
Madam
and moving
Secretary.
of word.
Madam Secretary, we had that last during the day of the bridge in the Bingan. It was really,
Good.
we
That's
had that.
wonderful.
We had
During
that.
the replaying.
Yes.
We had that at home. So that somehow or other we it really brought a lot of memories for us. And
Yes,
many of the
yes.
things that we did that day was really very significant.
And it is famous debate with Khrushchev, remember?
Yeah, it was very well recited by Dr. Bert Tuga.
Oh,
yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Should
Madam Secretary, we
refresh
are very happy.
ourselves and, again, bring that back to the, to add to the memories of our current learners. Kasi we were reciting that poem during our times as learners.
We were required in high school. We were required in high
Yes.
school to memorize.
Yes, yes.
So up to now, I can still memorize lines.
I am a Filipino.
Madam Secretary, we are also very happy that when we had International Rural Women, that Department of DAR, and also we like to partner with Department of Education. So somehow or other we can have rural education with community enterprises as a new tracking. And I know you are also a part of the PRM family, of which my grandfather started.
Of course.
So maybe we can, with you there, maybe that's going to be the significant contribution, somehow or other, partnering with agriculture and Department of Education as a new track of rural education with community enterprises. So that somehow or other, the people, the students need not go to the usual vocational technical entrepreneurship, but perhaps more of agriculture and at the same time food security and at the same time plant, produce and process. And I'm sure you with you there, this is something new that we can bring about. And we'll be very happy, the UNAP, to be able to bring this into the mainstream in terms of poverty eradication and at the same time partnering with you in this kind of new undertaking. We're excited. At the same time, we're also happy that you mentioned about the good manners and right conduct. You know very well that we are also Girl Scout and the Boy Scout. Perhaps we can work out
I was
the
also a
learning.
Girl Scout.
Yes, of course, and maybe we can now help you also in the implementing guidelines and bring about the learning pillars, complementing the educational competencies. And perhaps this is one way that your contribution in the new normal, but more than ever, education under your administration can make a difference in the lives of the people. Something new, but something relevant, but more than anything else, something that can solve the problem of food security, environmental, and at the same time, being able to have community enterprises. So I'm sure with your us partnering with us, we are more than excited that the first step we have already taken today, the Department of Education, as well as the chairman of committee on education, something new, something different but relevant in bringing about the learning society under the Duterte administration.
I'm very happy that you also take a very special interest on good manners and right conduct.
Yes, yes. What we want is something separate, non-formal
Society is
learning pillars.
changing.
Yes, yeah. We have learning pillars. I didn't want to open it here because it's long, but we can have time. And perhaps a committee can be worked out that the Department of Education, Department of Agriculture, and UNAP can somehow bring about this new way of being able, not new, but really just kind of reorientation, redesigning something that can work out. And also the higher education, we can also bring about sustainable development in the higher education. And perhaps with you as the mainstay of the whole educational system, you can bring about a real change on the kinds of attitudes values and formation, and transformative as far as this whole thing is concerned. So I like the expression of the NGO representative that interreligious, intercultural, and above all, cultural dialogue, cultural prophetic dialogue, because that's the way the world is now changing. And as we celebrate our 500 years of Christianity, the migrants can now be the new missionaries of changing the world and bring about an ASEAN Christianity where all of us are breaking together. So thank you very much for that opportunity for us to partner with you
Yes.
because we believe mothering, love, caring, love of country can all be emphasized in this new normal because some or other the children need love. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for your words of wisdom, which we will take very seriously. We are going into actually, we started for some time already urban agriculture because in urban places, it is of course possible at this time to plant vegetables, grow food, etc. And we are doing this in many urban places. We work also very closely with the Department of Agriculture. And then at the regional Asian regional level, we have CIRCA, which is the Southeast Asian also institution of SEMEO. This is the Association of Ministers of Education, wherein, again, researches in agriculture are applied in the lessons for our children. At this time, it's very, very important to place emphasis on the production of food because we can have technology, but we cannot eat technology.
Right.
Our life will not, so even as we recognize in the department, we recognize that we are moving towards digitalization. This is recognized by the United Nations. We will not let go of history, of culture, of creativeness, and of course, our basic source of sustenance and life, which is agriculture itself. So thank you
maybe
very much.
we're
Maybe if
happy
you
for
would have a
partnering,
committee who
taking the
can
bridge.
work with us
Yes, of course.
in our curriculum department, and so that
Can be the bridge, no? Agriculture
yes.
here, left there, so that we can provide the bridge that will link together urban education, not
Yes.
rural, not urban, but urban
Yes.
education with community enterprises. And of course, you are part of United PRRM. We can now have that all of those experiences that has been there for the past 70 years as the lesson plan that can make this all a reality. Can be alive, these kinds of things. So thank you so much for
Yes.
that exciting moment. And I'm
Thank
glad that you are accepting our learning pillars. There are 10 learning pillars, and of which it can be spread as far as the good manners and right conduct. We are excited about this so that some or other we can really bring about motherly concerns in the Department of Education. Education with the heart.
Yes. There is a need really for UNAP's contribution to be integrated in our curriculum because our curriculum, as you know, is evolving. It's not cast in stone. And we talk about new things, but these are really time-tested, time-honored, and part of our tradition and our culture, which we should not let go of. I always remind our teachers that if we will be totally exclusively reliant only on technology, then we will not be any different from the robots. Because in other countries, as you probably are aware, is may taga-PNU dito, na other countries are already developing robot teachers because of the shortage of teachers. And we believe that we still want to produce humans and not robots. And this is where UNAP can make very important contributions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Education with the heart. That's what we
Yes,
want
yes.
to do.
Soul pa.
Engage with the heart.
Not only the heart, but also the soul.
Of course, but the heart is, of course, the most important, the spirituality. And I think that's our contribution to the world too, bring about this whole Christian that you mentioned earlier by the NGO, that is really the foundation of a stronger nation. So we're excited and we hope that this today is a big step towards that kind of future of being able to, under your administration, create a new way of looking at things. Yeah, thank you so much. We look
Thank
forward to
you.
the kind of committee, and we hope that we can work together so that next
Yes.
year, before the end of our 500-year celebration, we have been able to really have the less traveled but new superhighway of the learning society. So
Thank you very much, Madam Benitez Reyes, and thank you very much, Secretary Briones. God bless you.
Yeah, thank
And
you
now,
also to the technical team who assisted us.
a few words of the I am a Filipino. I am a Filipino, inheritor of a glorious past, hostage to uncertain future. As such, I must prove equal to a twofold task: the task of meeting my responsibility to the past and the task of performing my obligation to the future. I am a Filipino, born to freedom, and I shall not rest until freedom shall have been added unto my inheritance for myself, my children, and my children's children's, by Carlos Romulo. Maraming salamat po. Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, and happy
See
New
you.
Year. See you soon.
Seeing you elsewhere in all our joint activities.
Sure,
look
Secretary
forward to that,
Briones.
Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much, PNP Donna.
My pleasure. Appreciate your invitation. Thank you.
You're welcome. May we have a photo op from the team also? Group photo op, please. Technical team.
Eileen.
Hi, beautiful song, beautiful singer.
Oh, marami palang talented Unap, ha?
What a surprise for me. You have such talent, my dear friend. Wow. I'm so impressed.
Thank you.
Soprano talaga.
Nice. Wonderful.
Okay.
So,
we had na pala the photo op kanina. Tapos na raw. Okay, so I
Meron na
think
ba?
we're all
Okay.
done, and thank you very much to all of you. We had a successful event all throughout this week.
Congratulations.
Nice, Ricky. Nice,
Congrats,
nice,
Unap.
nice.
Job well done, everyone.
when is the next board meeting?
So we'll
Yeah,
check.
right.
We'll check from the host.
Madam President. Okay.
Marami pa akong gagawing minutes of the meeting.
maybe after the holidays. Immediately
Yeah.
after the holidays.
November also.
Yeah, November 4. November 4.
Okay.
Let's the room shot and then we'll talk about the UNAP matters, please.
Late na, Ryan.
Ganda naman ang costume mo, Alice.
Thank you. From the country of Tibet.
Ganda.
Oo nga. Susunod, Alice, susunod naman ay Mongolia.
Mongolia. Hindi naman bagay sa kulay ko.
Pwede. Ang Mongolians, dalawang kulay. Yung maputi parang Chinese.
Yung mistisa.
Parang Turko.
Oo.
Yan ang mga Mongolians.
Oh, I see.
You can choose. You want to look like a Turk Or you want to look like a Chinese?
Kailangan medyo mahaba yung ano ko sa mata para maging Chinese.
Oo nga, makeup lang yan.
Oo.
Relax ka na. Relax ka na, no?
Oo,
natapos na siya kahapon eh.
Tapos na yung stakeholders mo.
Okay. Well, we were tested yesterday. Our ability to hold on to almost a vacuum. Only experts, only professionals can do that. So I salute you, Madam Ramona Monet. What a revelation yung sinabi ni President Mascareñas. Monet.
Grabe, no?
Para nagkakaroon ng mga revelation yata ngayon sa atin. Sa susunod, magkakaroon na tayo ng something cultural presentation.
That's in February. February is Arts Month.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Hello.
Akala ko yesterday
Nag-ano?
Pero si
napawala ako.
Kalaga palang soprano. At saka ang nice na naman yung character mo ngayon Ganda na naman. Marami kang nakiki dyan.
Isang cabinet ang aking Filipina.
That's nice.
Inibita nga siya sa Singapore para